All right. This is the second image. This is Dorothea Lange's Immigrant Farmers, I think is what it's called. I don't know why the 3D palette's up here. So I've zoomed in a little bit just using the zoom tool. And so now I have the image. Now this one I'm going to do a little different than the coloring book page. The coloring book page, I made a copy of the background and changed it to multiply because it had the black lines. And that basically was like the final coat. So it would cover up any imperfections. This one's a little bit more freehand. So first thing I'm gonna do is look over here, and apparently it is black and white. So I'm gonna go to, again, this is outside of the recording area. So it's image, mode, and then I'll change it to CYMK or RGB. It's gonna ask me to flatten or adjust, and I did. So now with this one, I'm gonna use not the magic wand tool, but I'm gonna use the paintbrush tool. And so I don't see it right off top. So now this is the history brush. It looks like a paintbrush, but it's not. We'll get to it later. The brush tool is under the pencil tool, so I'm gonna find it and get ready. It's a little small, so I'm gonna go up here, and right here I have a little dot that says 5. This allows me to adjust the size of the brush. I can go here and see where I'm at. All right, and that's not a bad size. Then the hardness. I don't necessarily want this brush to be super hard. I want sort of a soft edge. So the first thing I'm going to do is, now I've got this, I'm going to make a layer, and I'm going to call it the hair layer. Now with this one, you'll see I'll just paint, and it's like, oh wow, that's a little rough. We're just, kind of screwing that up. Oh no, whatever am I going to do? But I'm not stopping, so whatever. So I got the little, I'm come down here. I'm gonna come over here and get this little kid's head while I've got the yellow out. Now typically you'd want to use a different value of yellow when you're doing something like this. These are her kids, so she looks a little worn, torn, and unhappy in the universe because, Great Famine and all that. Of course, we all know this is Dorothea Lange. Well, not the woman, but Dorothea Lange is the photographer. I'll come in and fill in these holes. Now, so I've got this, and this looks a little rough, but by just coming up here and going to my mode, I can adjust it down to color. And you'll see that it's adding its color to the image area. Now, it's a little bright. I mean, you don't need it to be quite so. So by adjusting the opacity, it brings that black back up. You start getting a sense of the color of their hair without it being cartoony to that point. You'll see that I do have some areas, so I can always find the eraser. If I can figure out where I put it. Oh, there it is, the eraser tool. It's a little small too, so I'm gonna come up here and click the tool adjustment size. And if I have any areas that's just way out of bounds. Now, one of the things I had talked about was bringing in a picture from somewhere else. So I'm recording just my Photoshop page, so I'm gonna go to my internet. You probably can't see me doing this, so I'll come over here and I'll say Google, Google swimsuit, and all I'm looking for is an image with flesh tones that are comparable to the people that I'm looking at. I don't want, I can control the brightness and darkness, so trying to find something that's not going to get me in trouble. I know. That's disturbing. All right, so I'm gonna copy this image. And I'll come back into Photoshop and I'll say File, New. And you notice it says Clipboard whenever I bring in a picture. So it creates a canvas that's the size of the clipboard. So I've got this girl, and she's Latino or Hispanic or something. So she might be a little darker than I would normally think of when I see this woman and these kids, but like I said, I can work lighter and darker. So now I'm using the eyedropper tool. And what it does is I click on an area, it changes the chosen color in the foreground color. So as I click on areas, and this is why I choose swimsuits, just because it's easier to find a range of skin tones. So maybe a little, well, right there. All right. So now once I've done that, I really don't need this image anymore. I'll come back over here to this one, and then I can just say layer. I'll name this layer skin. Now, notice that when I click back over here, the foreground color stayed the same as it was on her picture, but because they're both open and they're using the same palette choices at this point. So skin, I'm gonna come back in. And I'll avoid things like, you know, her eyes. I could go back in with an eraser and clear those out if I needed to. But this is just sort of a quick version. If my brush is too big, I can come over here and I can scale my brush down, creating that range. You can do the whole trace around the outside of a shape. This is a little more time consuming than I would normally do. I would just use the brush and fill in. I wouldn't try using the magic wand on this project or this piece, because being a black and white photograph, the color range tends to flow throughout the whole thing. So your hue, depth of value, and tint and shade. So I feel I just made a circle around the majority of this area that I wanted. I can use, I'm looking for the bucket tool. There it is. All right, the bucket tool, and I can just come in and just like fill that. You notice I'm getting a little bit of a halo effect. Again, I can just come in with the brush and just kind of touch all that up. Smaller. All right, so I just got that listed as skin. I come down here, I drop in the color. You kind of see where I missed some spots. I could get a little closer to the eyes. Might need to make the brush a little smaller. And again, it's one of those, you know, she looks a little jaundiced, but then I drop it down to like 37%. Normally, in this situation, I would make another skin layer and do the kids. Each kid is their own skin layer, because then you can create some slight variations. But in this case, you know, we're just sort of going over the primary lesson. So I'll use the same skin layer, and you can see it's just kind of painting in that. Now, see, I went over the hair a little bit. I can undo, but it undoes everything I did there. Just got to pay more attention. I can always go back in and erase. So there we go. Got this kid over here. This is like super subtle. And the baby, I didn't know there was a baby for a long time. I just had never caught that down there. And then I had a history of photography class. The guy kept talking about the 3 kids, and I was like, what is he talking about? So then I come in and touch up this little area around her eyes. I could go in, give her eye color. So then I can do her sweater. Now, the clothes, you definitely don't want them all to be the same color because then that just gets a little redundant. You know, they're poor, but, you know, give them something. So I'm going to come back in and I'm just kind of focusing on there. Again, I can always go in with the eraser and clear up any areas where I happen to get color in the wrong spot. And since you're reducing the transparency on these so much, it's easy to come in and say, you know, it'll self fill a little bit. All right, so again, color. I'm gonna sum up here in the shoulders. Touch that up. A little spot right there. I'll use the eraser. Come back in, clean that up. Just a little bit over here. Then I'll just reduce the opacity some, so it has, so it's picking up some of that texture down there. And so the goal here is to get the entire image colorized. You should end up with several layers of just fabric, clothes, hair. Again, like I miss things at first. I have to go back in. I see down here there's some of the sweater, that's sort of catch point. And it's just a matter of getting the different layers and doing the setting it up that way. One of the big tricks is like whatever layer is highest is closer to you. So if I move, you can move them around. If you get one area that's kind of bleeding into another. But that's really all there is to this. You just create all the layers and then give me a screenshot of your layers of your screen, and then the final JPEG to show me what you've done. All right. All right.